So welcome to our entrepreneurship panel. My name is Jamie Harrell, and I'll be helping moderate today. This panel is, hopefully we're going to explore a bit about what it's like to be an entrepreneur as an underserved or from an underserved or marginalized communities. What has worked, where y'all have needed to pivot. And before we get started on quick introductions, I want to make a quick comment about the Entrepreneur Database Project at Goizueta Business School. Is a really interesting project, and we're going to talk a little bit about this today. They've tracked approximately 5,000 or 6,000 entrepreneurs worldwide through accelerator programs, those that have applied to accelerators, those that got accepted, those that got denied, to try to answer the question, do accelerator programs work? And in collecting that data from a longitudinal perspective across many years, they've collected a lot of data on entrepreneurship, and in particular funding, and who gets funding and when. And one of the interesting things, of course, the statistics are that teams that are founded with all males on them get the most equity money in their search for starting their entrepreneurial endeavor. And teams with all female partners get the least. So that's certainly one of the issues that I hope to hear about today. But interestingly enough, the data also shows that mixed teams with founders that are both either male or female, that have a mixed team, perform the best. So the groups that are getting the most money are not actually performing to that money. So that's part of the issues that we're all facing in entrepreneurship today. So I'd like to start off with a couple of quick intros. Please take just a minute or two to tell us a little bit about yourself, your organization, what you do, and how you became an entrepreneur. So we'll start on the far end with Kortney Ziegler from ZaMLabs.
This is enough. Yay. Thanks for having me. I'm so glad to be here. My name is Kortney Ziegler. I am head of research and design at ZaMLabs. That stands for Ziegler and Michael Labs. My awesome co-founder is here. We build a lot of things. One of our most popular products right now is a crowdfunding app called Apparition that crowdfunds spare change to bail people out of jail. I'll talk more about that because I need you all to support us. I'm excited to be on this panel.
And Alex Castillo from Neurosity.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Castillo. I'm a co-founder at Neurosity, and we believe in empowering the mind. And the first thing we're doing for that is we're building hardware and software so we can do mind control, so we can start using technology a little bit more the way we think. So you can think about, let's say, controlling your TV or your smart home or your computer. And that's what we're doing.
Thank you. And we have Lynette Mckissick from Goodr.
Hello, everybody. Lynette Mckissick with Goodr. Goodr is a sustainable food waste management company, and what that means is we pick up extra food from restaurants, convention centers, airports, pretty much anywhere that has food, and we donate it to nonprofits on behalf of the client. And I'll go into a little bit more detail, but we have a couple of tech pieces that help us with that as well.
And Stephanie Jewett from Actively.
Okay, just kidding to all of that. Hey, y'all, hey. My name is Stephanie Jewett. I am the founder and CEO of Actively mobile app. That is Actively spelled with 2 V's. And Actively spelled with 2 V's is Tinder for platonic fitness buddies. So we help you connect with people if you want to go hiking, biking, do yoga. You're traveling to Atlanta for an amazing conference like this, and you want to get out and explore the Beltline, maybe not alone. Don't do it alone. Download Actively with 2 V's.
And we have Niall Al-Smile from the Labs.
Hey, y'all. I am the CTO and co-founder of the Labs, along with Farrah Allen, my co-founder, who is unfortunately not here today. And what we do is we are music collaboration and IP protection. So musicians can come into the Labs, they can work together, collaborate to their heart's content with people that they don't even know, and make sure that their work is copyrighted and protected so that they can share it and not feel like somebody's going to steal their work.
Thank you so much. So for the panel, jump in whenever you want on a particular topic that you'd like to talk about. I'd like to start with, there's a large body of evidence that shows that individuals from marginalized communities are less likely to take entrepreneurial risks. So pick what part of this you might resonate with you, but how has that impacted you and how have you gotten past it? Or given the current social and economic climate, what encouraged you to make that jump, to take a conscious decision to take that risk?
I'll start with that one because it was definitely not conscious. Like, I knew I wanted to build a mobile app and I wanted to create a way for people to connect. I had no real idea of like what getting into entrepreneurship was like, thank goodness, because it is scary and difficult and also amazing, but also so scary and so difficult. So it wasn't conscious, and I would say some of the things that personally I've experienced that I think make it that much harder is I am first generation Cuban American, and so often, any Latino people up in here? What's up? Hey y'all, hey, ¿cómo está? ¿Cómo está? What's up? I got too excited. Hola mi gente. I'm sorry for everybody else. I'm sorry I did all that. But it makes it really difficult because our families come here and they're just surviving, and then they just want you to kind of settle down and settle in. So there's a lot of risk aversion, like, okay, we took this risk to leave our country and come here, and now I'm a former CNN producer, so like, why didn't you stay at CNN for 30 more years? Why would you leave a nice job? So that's one of the things that I think is a really big risk that you don't get a lot of support in. And the other is not having people in your family or in your network that can guide you. Like, there is a difference between somebody whose mom and dad has been a doctor or a professional or has networks and knows how to email and like do those kind of professional setting things that move you up, and then not having that background. So I think those are really big components that when it comes to entrepreneurship, probably could use a little help in along the way.
Yeah, and I'm going to jump in and just piggyback off of what she said. Being from a marginalized family, we don't have the luxury of not being stable. So we're struggling and just trying to maintain stability to say that I'm going to, leave this stability to go to something that's extremely risky, which is entrepreneurship. They're like, what are you doing? Why? And you don't really have a lot of support with it from a financial perspective. So you just kind of have to do it on your own. Yeah. That was my barrier. Yeah, emotional as well.
And I'd like to add, so I'm Iraqi American. We came here. I'm Iraqi American, so we came here when I was very, very young. So it's a very similar story. It's like my family, we don't have that network. We don't know. We didn't know what schools to go to, what networks to be in. So me getting into entrepreneurship is brand new for my family. There have been people in my family that might have opened up like a store or something, but nothing to the level of a large national or international company. This is very new for us. So having people to ask questions to, we've got to reach out and find people in our community that we can, that may have insight into that. But unfortunately, in the Arabic community, you don't see that a lot. We have to find people from, we need y'all's help, and that's what we look for.
So was there a specific moment when you realized that being from a marginalized group was creating those obstacles for you?
For me, it was when I've worked in corporate for several years. For me, it was when I had to choose between keeping my corporate job and being able to pay my bills versus jumping out in faith and starting the company with zero revenue, but a lot of traction. So for me, a friend of mine, actually, a really good friend of mine, is not from a marginalized community and did the exact same thing, but had the support of his father's network. So just to see that difference in him being able to go out and start with funding behind him and a little bit more support from the community in the corporate world opened my eyes a bit.
I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs, but I think being a Black American, we're all intrinsically entrepreneurs because we're like naturally have to hustle in so many different ways. So I have that kind of experience with me. But the reason that I did become a tech entrepreneur was because I could not find a job. I thought what I had was a pretty successful kind of academic career, an artist career behind me, and a portfolio being awesome for many, many years. But once I completed my PhD, it was like, and I was like living my truth about who I am. I'll out myself, I'm trans. So I like encountered a whole new world of anti-trans discrimination that forced me to create a pathway for my own sustainability. So I had to become an entrepreneur. Like I had to make a space because no one wanted to invite me into theirs. So I think the question of risk, it varies. Like what does risk mean when you really can't have stability, when people aren't, or when spaces and institutions aren't providing that for you. So that's kind of my story.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate you outing yourself. And in case anybody doesn't know, I'm trans. My voice is probably giving it away. But if there are other trans people in the room, I think I want to say to you that I think it is incredible being at this, the experience of being here and seeing other trans people and not feeling that you're the only person in the room is rather incredible. So if anyone wants to stand up, stand up. So back to the panel. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take over. Talking about, let's go back to the funding question, because studies are showing that only 3% of funding goes to women-started businesses, and I think it's less than 0.02% to business started by women of color. And so I'd like to hear from you all what challenges you faced raising money, but how did you get past that? Was there anything that you did that really was able to move past those barriers? Because there were probably people here today that are looking for funding and would love that advice from you.
So I can speak to that. We raised a pre-seed round of funding, raised $1 million. And for us, the challenge was initially I didn't even want to put the pictures of our team members on the decks that we were presenting. And somebody asked me why. And I said, because if you see a team of color and you're going into a venture firm that's ran by the majority population, they might sway away. And that's the reality of the situation. So we decided to do it anyway. We bit the bullet. We went in there. And what got us through it is just really being strong in what we're doing and being confident and knowing that what we're trying to do is, one, going to change the world, but two, help those who need it. So just going in there with that mindset and being confident in what you do. If they don't want to work with you because of that, then oh well, somebody will. So.
Yes. I would say for Actively and myself, we haven't raised yet intentionally because we know that there is, you have less bargaining power, right? And so we want to be able to maintain as much control as possible for as long as we can. But what I can tell you is that even when investors approach you, and there's a lot of people that once they see what you're doing, they start circling, right? They're like, oh, something's happening here. We want to see what's up. It is that space of, oh yeah, I'm so interested until, oh, that's what you're doing. Oh, just a lot of, yep. You're like, but you approached me. But what I would say is that for all of the people that it is predominantly white dudes, no shade, white guys, lots of lovely white dudes in the room, I'm sure. Okay, no shade, gentlemen in this room. But I would say there are so many intentional people and VCs here in Atlanta that are really, really looking to invest in people of color and women. Like specifically, the Jump Fund is one of the most important ones that is still supporting women here in Atlanta. So I would say, just in general, I would seek out those investors even before you're ready to get investment so that you start building those relationships, because that's what's going to really help you finesse those relationships. That's not the right word, but y'all know what I mean. And then the other piece that I would say is, so definitely establishing those relationships are going to get you in the door. I was at an event 2 weeks ago, and they said that 80% of the funding that Atlanta companies have comes from outside of Atlanta. So what I'm saying to you is, if it is rough for you in Atlanta and you're trying to raise, you're not alone. It's probably that is going to be more common. So at least steel yourself and know that's just kind of the nature of the beast, unfortunately, here in the city of Atlanta. And you will have to look elsewhere. But at least you won't keep hitting your head against the wall and thinking it's just you. So take that for cold comfort. Okay.
And just to speak to what she said, it is very hard in Atlanta. We didn't get any funding in Atlanta, but that doesn't mean don't try. I would still definitely try, because the atmosphere is changing here, and I think it needs to change. So.
And even for us, I mean, we're a music collaboration. You'd think Atlanta is huge on music culture, and we get to meet so many great musicians as a result. but the money's not here. We have to go out to LA. We've got to meet folks out there. I would say the one thing that's helped us really establish ourselves is staying humble and getting into tiny accelerator programs, because those are the ones that will start to establish you as somebody, even if you don't get too much out of the accelerator program, because they're really just trying to help you get off the ground, you will start to build your network and people will start recognizing you. And that's really what gets everything going, at least for us. That's what got things going. One accelerator program would run into the next, and then we'd get more exposure, we'd get more, we'd get more clout, and we continue to build on that. And it's really gotten to a point for the labs, at least, where we're starting to have a little bit of a snowball effect. And people, they know me before I know them, which is like totally weird. Like, I'm CTO guy.
So I want to hear a little bit more about the accelerators, particularly here in Atlanta. Are there some that you would recommend that are particularly looking to work with marginalized communities?
Yeah, I think there's two that we joined in Atlanta, and actually before I joined Farah and we started the lab, she was already part of Digital Undivided. Digital Undivided is, they are all about underrepresented women in tech, and they are great for a good starting point. They've got great advice. They do have connections, so it really, at the very minimum, it becomes a place where you have a resource, you have somebody to fall back on. The other one that we joined was the Farm. So NBC Comcast put together the Farm. It's an accelerator program that actually came out of Denver called Boomtown, and then they opened one here, and the one here is really focused on underrepresented communities, and that one is part of NBC Comcast. Like, you talk about like a big name on your corporate resume, that is huge for us, because at the very minimum, they can say, okay, we're affiliated to this big media organization, especially for us because we're in media.
We also did the accelerator route, and we're based in New York. And one of the things we were really happy about, the one that we did is called Quake Capital, is that they're very transparent. That's one of their values, and they share their stats. I'm not sure they share it publicly, but at least they told the cohort about their stats. And turn out, even if they don't have an agenda to go after any certain underrepresented group, their stats show that just based on merit, like 50%, over 50% of all of their companies are like from female founders, and is a very, very diverse and rich group of people. So I would encourage anyone to see if we can find some data about the people getting to these programs to see if there's some bias. So that, for example, is a very good program that is definitely all based on merit, and just by choosing that route, they get a very, very good group of people.
And actually, we joined Quake as well. So we're in LA. So I didn't know that. Y'all are in New York. That's awesome.
Yeah, we just finished the one in New York.
Okay.
Nice.
And then the when did y'all finish?
Like a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
If
Okay.
I look tired,
like this week.
If I look tired, it's because of that.
Yeah. And then they also have like an Austin office, I think. They have so they're all over the country. Quake's pretty huge.
So some of the accelerators that we have really benefited from, and that lean towards tech but aren't just about tech. So I just graduated from the City of Atlanta, the Women's Entrepreneurship Initiative, or WE. It is the only city-backed incubator for women in the nation. And the access to opportunities, to mentors, and to the rooms that you normally wouldn't have access to is what I think the accelerators really offer you. The other one that I strongly, strongly recommend is Atlanta Tech Village. They have It Takes a Village. They do it twice a year. And they are so intentional about getting you exposure to the 300 startups at Atlanta Tech Village. It is specifically for female and minority founders. So I'm in that one right now, and we're wrapping up. So it will open up for the fall. Great networking, great people, super supportive. And then if you're just like, I just want to test the waters, ATDC is only $25 per quarter. But the access, like if you look at the office hours and the companies that are in-house, that anybody in this room can book an appointment with any of these top level people and build those relationships that lead you to hopefully funding, because Atlanta again, I really, really advocate for, and they have classes that you can take, customer discovery, financing. Even yesterday they had a really in-depth program on Facebook ads So if those are areas you're like, I really need that, for $25 per quarter, you cannot beat just access and getting your kind of foot in the door.
I would also like to say we raised money, my co-founder and I, and it's probably one of the most difficult things I've done in my life, because there's multiple ways you can do it. That's my one piece of advice. Don't think you have to go to a VC. You could crowdfund. You could, sell things. Always try to sell things first. Refine your product. Try to generate revenue so that maybe you don't have to. But if you are building a tech company, there's absolutely no way as a Black American person you're not going to need money. There's just absolutely no way if you want to grow your product. And so in that regard, you have to be very creative about it. My co-founder and I, we raised a lot of money. And we did it in multiple ways. Like I said, we crowdfunded, we did raise VC money. We partnered with a nonprofit so they can be our fiscal sponsor so we can get grants. You don't have to be a nonprofit to get grants. You should have a business partner who's a nonprofit so you can get grants. We did multiple things so that we can test out our ideas and have some runway, because Lynette is very right. You put your, in the tech space in particular, we talk a lot about these accelerators and programs and stuff, but the data still says like less than 1% of Black people in particular are getting funding. So what if that's the case, then are we really benefiting from these accelerators and programs? In my opinion, not in the ways that maybe other folks are. And so be creative, don't give up, talk to everybody, don't be afraid to ask people, don't be afraid to publicly ask people on Twitter. It's a great way. Don't be afraid to just investigate and just know that you belong in this space. I think that's a super important piece of information and advice that I wish that I had. And that's it, yeah.
So Alex, you said you just finished an accelerator program.
Yes.
What was the single biggest takeaway for you from that program? What value do you feel like you've gotten out of that?
So one of the things that I appreciated the most about this program in particular is that we were getting like these startup classes about certain things, like how to be an entrepreneur and all these things, and about like sales and about marketing and about branding. And I found that at least the things that I considered to be like common sense, I was completely wrong about them. And I learned just so much from the people that have been doing it, for like decades now. So getting access to that information is so important. And definitely getting into these programs is very hard. And once you get in, it can be very intense, mostly because not only you have to work on your product or your vision, but you also have to invest the time in this program to acquire the knowledge while you're doing it. And it feels like almost like another part-time job. It is that much of a time commitment. So you just add more stuff to your plate. But I don't have a single thing that I took from it, but seeing other companies and surrounding yourself with other people that are also like working so hard and with so much passion, like you feed off it. So if anything, just surrounding yourself with the right crowd would give you that energy and push and like that support system that everyone needs if they're building something that hasn't been built before.
And for me, it was founders therapy too, because in my space, I didn't know a lot of entrepreneurs. So to be able to speak to somebody else who might be going through the same thing that I'm going through and know that I'm not crazy or anything like that was great. And for me, the two, we did several accelerators. The two I'll mention are Techstars Anywhere. Techstars Anywhere was a new program where instead of being in one location for the duration of the program, you would travel, you would come in stints. So I think it was 2-week stints. You would come and travel to a location and just really dive deep. And the other one was SAP.io in New York is the one that we did as well.
So I'd like to talk about finding the right team to support you. And this could be team members, it could be mentors, it could be investors. So whatever you define as your team, how did you build out the community around you to help push you forward?
Community or team?
All of the above, whatever you consider to be your team, whether it's community or team.
Yeah, so I guess I would add to the scope of that, I would add like the team, the people that are like buying into your vision, and also like the mentors and the advisors and investors and all that. We leverage social media to some point. Our first employee she just started this week, and I know I'm here, but she just started this week. My co-founder AJ found her on Twitter just because she posted about something that she's passionate about that completely overlapped with what we were doing. Long story short, she moved from Berkeley, California to New York to just start working with us, and just having access to the people that are sharing what they're passionate about, even if it's just Twitter, is like huge. And also going to the local events and also changing thoughts with people that are also working in the space.
For us, it was networking. So we had a small founding team. And for us, it was just really getting out there and not intentionally looking for team members initially, but speaking with people, telling them what we do. A lot of people offer their services. So if they're in a space where you need their service, you can do a trial period. I wouldn't say dive deep as a startup and go full salary, but you can do a trial period, do some type of consultancy to see if one, their culture even fits with the culture of your company, but two, to see if their service that they're offering is what you really need. So for us, it was definitely networking and trial and error.
So for us, sharing this with you so that you cultivate these relationships, and then the people in the room who are a bit more established, that maybe you share your networks. So I am not a traditional tech background. I'm a CNN journalist, what I did for years before leaving CNN to launch the app. So I didn't have an amazing network of you very talented technical folks. And that was really difficult. But the thing that opened the door for me was through the accelerator program, one of our mentors is an investor here in Atlanta, Kim Seals. If you ever meet her, tell her you heard her name from the stage from this girl in a red dress. She won't know it's me. I'm just kidding. So Kim literally was like, I really believe in what you're doing. I see how hard you're working. You've got this piece and this piece and this piece, but you still need this to really get ready for when you are going to go after funding and to really scale. And so she took out her Rolodex and called up her friend Nancy. Nancy was a CTO at Fiserv and WorldPay, like big deal fintech companies. And she's like, Nancy, Stephanie's amazing. I love what she's building. I see her hustle. I advised her through this program. You guys should meet. And so because we met, Nancy and I, kind of courted for 3 or 4 months, and she joined my team. There is no way in the universe that I would have ever had access to someone who had just retired. She had just worked at Greenlight, which is another big deal startup. And it was because of the intentionality of this woman who was like, I believe in you. Let me whip out the old Rolodex, or more like a cell phone, but imagine the Rolodex for some of you older people, And literally because of Nancy, I was able to find my senior software architect and my CFO because of her networks. So I'm saying this to say, you have programs that might not lead you to money directly, and that really sucks and doesn't feel good, but also there are people who really want to see you win, and you can ask these questions, now knowing, be like, hey, do you happen to know anybody who's retired? There's a lot of corporate people who are just chilling right now all over Atlanta, and they've got the skills you need to round out your teams to really go big.
So you've heard a lot about building up your team, and we've had very similar experiences. Farah and I both have consulting backgrounds, so building our networks is really part of our business. So if you're in consulting, a lot of this probably sounds familiar. I would say what I wanted to add was around advisors. So advisors have been so helpful for us, and they want to help us because Farah is she's a Black woman, and she's going out there and she's doing all this hustling. She's super hard worker, but there's not a lot of traction. But I'll tell you what, people want to give advice. They really want to try to help. They might not want to stick with you. They might not want to fund you. They may not be in that situation. But I tell you what, man, they are really looking out there to try to make sure that this community is really starting to improve. And it's a shift, I would say, in the last maybe 10 years. 10 years ago, you wouldn't have seen, this sort of like this groundswell of support from. So just find those people on Twitter, find those people that, reach out to old managers, whatever you need to do to just find those leaders that can give you just a little bit of help. I mean, they might say one thing that would help you go in the right direction.
I have one more. So open source is a huge one because that's one of the ways I met my co-founder. Once you start putting your work out there and you have people that collaborate, that tells you a lot. Like whoever is collaborating to your projects, or if you're collaborating to a project, that just is the biggest signal. So just keeping an eye, out for like who are the people that are really collaborating to the things that can make a big impact tech-wise is also pretty big.
I also think it's a good idea to do other things that align with your business model, like write articles, attend conferences that are not tech, and involve yourself in different spaces strategically that you are able to kind of network with different types of people. Because even though I do, and I'm not knocking accelerators, we've went through 2 accelerators as well. And I think our most valuable one was a sales accelerator. So it taught us how to kind of create our sales pipeline and things like that. Super useful. But I think one of the most useful things is like meeting people and knowing that relationships are the most important things, I think, to cultivate as an entrepreneur, because you always need support. But you always want to position yourself as someone who is willing to receive support and also give support. And that is being very strategic. So again, just kind of cultivate yourself as a brand, if that makes sense. It's super helpful in terms of getting to know people that you don't have access to originally.
I want to add to that, the single easiest way that costs you nothing to build your personal brand, like Kortney is really like leaning into, is you being out and being visible, and or also starting something of your own. There is nothing that establishes you as a thought leader, as someone that people gravitate towards. I don't care what you're into, but if you're even thinking about, I want to start a business in like some kind of digital shoe, which I don't think is a real thing, but if you wanted to do that, and you say, hey, guys, coffee and digital shoe talk Tuesdays, meet me there. And the first Tuesday, it's just you and your lonely pair of shoes that aren't real. And then, the next week, it's 2 of you and the very sad shoes. And then you start attracting the people. So if you want to find people who believe in what you believe, you establish yourself as a thought leader. People always want to connect. That's why you're all here, right? Like to have community, to have people that you're like, I know what it's like. I'm into that too. The saddest day was when Game of Thrones ended, no matter how you thought the ending went, but because like you lost that sense of community. We're all craving it. And if you take the time to either show up to things like this and be like, hey, I'm really into this, want to follow up after this conference, walk the Beltline, or want to start a group with me, like those are the ways that cost you nothing but a little bit of time and like a post or 2 on social media to start cultivating and establishing yourself as an authority, a thought leader, and to bring the people to you who might be a part of your team. And it costs nothing.
That's so true. I did Brain and Coffee, and like from someone that I just put it on Twitter, and I got to meet like someone that was really interested, in the community. So I was Brain and Coffee. So our product is all about the brain and mind control. So I was like, hey, who wants to talk just about the brain and grab coffee? And like someone said like, hey, and then we met. It's not as sexy, no. Yeah.
Can we have a quick time check? How much further do we have to go here? 5 minutes? Okay, great, because I have another question that I really, really wanted to get to, and I'm glad we had the chance to. So the studies have repeatedly shown that more diverse teams perform better. And I'd like to know if you've been able to integrate diversity and inclusion efforts into your startups as a strategy. And if so, have you had any pushback, or how have you navigated that as strategy for your startup?
I want to answer that. It is not a strategy at our startup. It's just who we are. I think it's very important. Our whole team we're made up of different types of people. But we are just aware of that we live in a world with different types of people. And I think that because we are different types of people and we come with unique experiences and backgrounds, and sometimes those experiences have not always been treated well. We kind of like always treat each other well in our space. I think the whole diversity and inclusion conversations, which have recently kind of waned a little bit. They had their peak a couple of years ago, and they're starting to decline in some ways. I think they were very useful in a number of ways in sort of starting the conversation in a space like tech, and where I live is predominantly white. But it's also kind of leveraged in a way that's like, well, we've done enough. We don't have to fund you. We don't have to, create products that are actually very mindful of the neighborhood we're creating the products in because we're having these conversations. So it's been this kind of like catch-22 in some ways. But I always say that I think there are certain organizations that really do need to have these conversations, whereas the other ones like us, who are certain kind of marginalized people who are creating organizations, it's in our DNA. It's literally in our code. And so we provide a kind of different experience or a different entry point to that conversation.
One of the great things about starting something from scratch is that you have all the power to make those decisions. And if you start at the very beginning with, starting to diversify, your team right off the bat, the consequences of that is that as the team grows, the exact thing is going to happen because everyone that joins is going to have their circles and they're going to bring also that perspective. So I would say that it's so important that it happens right off the bat and that everyone is conscious about it so things can change.
So I would say, look for those leaders. Okay. So I'd say look for those leaders. I mean, for us, we were pretty lucky because, Farah's a black woman, I'm Iraqi American, so we already started out from day one as being diverse. And our networks were also, they were our circles, right? And as we bring our circles together, we're starting to see that diversity just sort of happen. But there's still, even on our teams, there's still, underrepresentation, we don't have, and we want all the representation on our team. We want the Hispanic folks and everything, but those aren't in our circles. So what I would say is, immerse yourself. The best piece of advice that I got was to, meet with the folks at Women Who Code, meet with those teams that are in your towns that are diverse already. Go meet with those folks and really immerse yourself in those organizations because that's where you're going to start. You're going to build your circle and you're going to grow your circle. And that's when things really start to change for you.
We're really diverse. We have everybody represented age-wise, gender. And I think for me, it is super intentional, but also like a reflection of the network that I have, putting myself in so many different spaces. Even today, before I got here, we had orientation for our new intern, and she's Colombian, and she's only been here a short while, but just allowing people to have access and opportunity to see themselves with your companies and with, even if for a short while, that she would have otherwise not, that wasn't what she was looking for. I was like, you've got the skills, I guess, to pay the bills, I guess. But I didn't want to say that, but I said it. I couldn't help it. But she had the skills. And now I know that by the time she's done with our internship, I know she really loves communications and journalism, what I'm good at, but she'll also be able to see herself as somebody who belongs in the tech space. And that's intentionality, coming from me to everybody that's part of our team.
For us, we're pretty diverse when it comes to age and gender. We are in the process of hiring. So in our hiring process, we typically try not to judge somebody by their race, gender, anything like that. We try to just base them on their skills. So we try to really just, as he said, it's in our bones. We stay diverse because we all have diverse minds, and we don't want anybody on the team that's exactly the same. To me, a strong team is where if I'm giving an idea and you think it's crap, you should be able to say, no, that's crap. This is how we should do it. So, just keeping it like that.
So I can give each of you an additional 30 seconds, maybe 20, if there's any closing or last minute things that you would say to someone from a marginalized community that says, I want to start a company, what should I do? Any quick last minute advice that you would give?
I would say that you're going to get challenged over and over and over again in ways that you're going to see other teams not get challenged, and don't let that dishearten you. Y'all just keep pushing through. Your teams are going to be better for it.
I would say don't give up. For the 1,000 no's you get, that one yes will give you the satisfaction that you need. So just keep going. Don't give up. And if you need any support or any guidance or anything, or can guide us in any way, please reach out.
Find around the right team and the right co-founders from the start, because a lot of companies, this is a big percentage of companies that fail is because of the co-founder differences. That's going to be key if you want it to last.
Yeah. Celebrate the small wins. I think that was the biggest lesson that I've learned. And whatever that may mean, if that means you actually got to complete an email for that day that you really need to complete, that is a win. for yourself. So celebrate those wins. And before I take away the mic, I'm going to plug Apparition. We are crowdfunding right now. So please go to bit.ly/Apparition with a capital A and help us support. We're trying to raise $100,000 to keep the platform going. We've done a lot of great work. And so I'm counting on the community to help us to keep going. And yeah, just, also know that you deserve to be in this space.
Oh, yes. I have two quick ones. One, entrepreneurship is not linear. It's never going to go like this or even like this. So I'm telling you now, if you're even considering entrepreneurship, it literally is like, I am doing it. Oh my God, I can't believe it. I want to die. Lord, please take me. I can't believe we're doing so well. We got all this. Oh my God, please take me now, Lord. Why am I still here? Just so that you know, it is not weird. It is normal. Everybody goes through it. It is a part of the process. It's going to be the most amazing, but also the most painful, but you just keep going. And the second thing is collaborate freely. We have a saying in Spanish, because I had to finish the way I started. Lo que está para ti, está para ti. What is meant for you is yours. So collaborate freely, because no one can take the success that you are building, even if they're similar, close to your space. Your success is your success. Bye.